Amendment Bill, third reading.
Call on Government Order of the Day number 3.
Maritime Crimes Amendment Bill, third reading.
Mr Speaker,
I call the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
I move that the Maritime Crimes Amendment Bill be now read a third time. Mr Speaker, this bill demonstrates New Zealand's continuing commitment to the fight against terrorism by enhancing New Zealand's ability to respond to threats to maritime security. It will bring our domestic legislation into line with the current international legal framework related to maritime terrorism. Now, this bill came to the House 18 months ago and was stalled around here, even though it's a critical matter to do with our international safety. And in 42 devastating days of vision and activity, it is going to pass through this House this evening. Just like the last bill, it staggered around here for weeks and years as well. But in came a government with drive and unction and commitment and youth and energy, and as a consequence, like lightning, it's going through the House. This bill was introduced to the House on the 2nd of May 2016, a year and a half ago. Now, the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Committee reported to the House over a year ago. What have they been doing? Well, that's a question I'd love to answer, but heaven knows. Heaven knows what these people have been doing with their time, because running the country economically and socially in a sound way is what they have most definitely not been doing. Now, it'll implement 2 maritime counter-terrorism treaties into our law, the Protocol of 2005 to the Rome Convention for the Suppression of Unlawful Acts against the Safety of Maritime Navigation, and the Protocol of 2005 to the Rome Protocol for the Suppression of Unlawful Acts against the safety of fixed platforms located on the continental shelf. And the 2005 protocols introduced new offences relating to the use of ships and fixed platforms. This bill will add these new offences to the Maritime Crimes Act 999 and relate to, I just want to outline these 5 things: the commission of serious offences against ships or using ships, the illicit trafficking by ships of weapons or ship of weapons of mass destruction, their delivery systems and related material, the transportation of fugitives by ship. 4th, the commission of serious offences against fixed platforms or using fixed platforms. And 5th, intentionally causing death or injury in connection with these offences. The bill introduces a maritime boarding regime consistent with existing international law, which clarifies enforcement officers' powers when taking action in relation to offences under the Maritime Crimes Act 1999. It gives the New Zealand courts extraterritorial jurisdiction over an offence if there is a New Zealand link, for example, if it takes place on board a New Zealand ship. Mr Speaker, I could deal with all the rest of the matters, but it's pretty self-explanatory. As they say, the 2005 protocols, and according to the bill, have a counter-terrorism context. Enactment of this bill will enable New Zealand to ratify the 2005 protocols, thereby becoming party to all 16 of the core international counter-terrorism instruments. This is consistent with our commitment to the global fight against terrorism and to ensuring that we have the legal framework in place to deter and react decisively to terrorism. Now, I want to say to the Foreign Affairs and Defence and Trade Committee that they deserve our gratitude for their careful consideration of the bill, which they got back to the House a long, long time ago. And then, like so much of what was going on under their previous administration, it hit a roadblock, a detour. It just stalled and nothing happened. And we've got a serious matter of international security, maritime security, and here we've got a government over there, in opposition now, and it looks like it'll be there for a long, long time. Because as I warned those gentlemen and ladies over there, their front bench weren't up to it, and they're not. If you could take a serious matter like this and be so dilatory about it, then you're not serious about being in the government. And what reminded me about the last bill that just went through the House, it's got a similar, in terms of urgency, ring to it. In fact, they had no sense of urgency at all. The Reno had happened, an absolute disaster. They all knew about the maritime event, the Mikhail-Lermontov, in which they were warned by a then younger National Party backbencher of the circumstances that they were inviting. They decided to ignore that, and 31 years later, Somebody gets up from the Kaikoura electorate and says he's read it. Well, he read it, but what did he do about it? It's the reason why we're over here, because in this coalition government, there's energy and drive, and you can see it. We ooze it. We ooze the sense of crisis that besets this country. That's why I commend this bill to the House and its third reading. Thank you very much.
I call the Honourable Mark.